It's Monday, which means another mock draft. Monday here on the channel. This is immediately following the AFC and NFC championship games, where the Eagles and Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl. Kind of a boring matchup because we've seen it before, but these are the two best teams. The Eagles are probably the most talented, and the Chiefs just don't really lose. So, there you go. But no trades today. We will eventually get into trades. The problem with this draft, though, with not only the talent, but the order. There are not many obvious trade-up spots. Yeah, there are plenty of teams that would want to trade down. You're talking about maybe the Titans, the Browns, maybe the Patriots. There are teams that would definitely like to move down. I would expect inside the top 5 and top 10. The problem is who's trading up for a lot of these guys. There are not that many blue-chip players, and you got to have somebody you want to trade up for, so I don't see a ton of obvious spots. I think my next mock I'm going to do will be 2 rounds as well, so stay on the lookout for that. Let's jump into number 1, kicking things off with Penn State's Abdul Carter to the Tennessee Titans. Listen, I know that the new president of football operations, or GM, or whoever, is in charge of the Titans franchise at this point, came out and said, hey, it's unlikely that we're going to pass on a generational player at number 1. I don't think Abdul Carter is generational, but he is a very, very good prospect, and maybe the best in this draft. Really, really good. Carter and Hunter are better than the quarterback prospects on a big board, no question, but quarterback is the most valuable position. No question, just is this that good of a QB class? It's not. Maybe they look to go a different direction, but I don't take anything that a figurehead or anyone within an organization, I don't take any of that as fact. There's way too much misinformation and smokies, screens, and designed misinformation that comes out around draft season. Dude, we said we would never take a quarterback. Why do you have us going QB? And then they take a QB. It doesn't mean anything. You can't take it as fact and go, oh, I guess they said it. I guess it's true. No matter what. Sometimes there is team philosophy that says, okay, they're going to go in a direction like this, and they just wouldn't have somebody like this on their board. But oftentimes, in terms of players, especially at the top, you can't take any of that as fact. But today we are going to go Abdul Carter instead of a quarterback, in the case of a Cam Ward, for example. But that puts the Browns in an interesting spot. Think you have really a 1 of 3 here. Maybe even a 1 of 2, we'll say, Travis Hunter or a quarterback. The Browns absolutely need a quarterback. Yes, Deshaun Watson still exists. He's torn his Achilles, and this is the big thing. Other than the fact that he's a serial predator, he's terrible. He's a really, really bad quarterback. They extended him. It's an extra void year that makes him more cuttable. They're not any more committed to Deshaun Watson than they were last year. In fact, they're even less committed with the extra year. It just spread out. It makes him easier to cut it. Makes it the financial burden on the organization less significant. It does not mean they are more committed. Now to Deshaun Watson, they didn't see him tear as Achilles again, and then watched him play terribly as well and said, you know what? Now, we know this is our guy. No, they're not committed. And the fact that the top 2 quarterbacks are on the board, you have your pick of either. Maybe the Browns do decide to go quarterback at number 2 overall and take Miami's Cam Ward. He's got some good arm talent. He can make some big splash plays, I continue to say. So you're banking on the upside there with Cam Ward, as the Giants are maybe not in as good of a situation, I think. What this comes down to, as much as I might like this to be Travis Hunter today, we're going to mix it up. I do think the Giants are desperate for a quarterback. They are Joe Shane, Brian, deal potentially on the way out. They need quarterback, and I think they might be forced into taking one Shador Sanders, or Shador Sanders, maybe the best one on the board there. So the Giants take him at number 3. Overall, he's very accurate, and he's used to playing behind a bad offensive line, which the Giants have. It's not as bad as it has been, but it's not good. And Andrew Thomas continues to not be able to stay healthy, and Evan Neal was not a good pick in hindsight. I don't know how he's so bad, I really don't. But he was a left tackle that evidently cannot play right tackle. That's for sure. And that leaves the Patriots at number 4 to really go with the best player available. And I think that is Travis Hunter now. This is someone that maybe could be a primary offensive player. I still view his best role on defense, but I do think he can impact the game as an offensive player. I think maybe 10 to 15, maybe even 20 snaps a game. We saw running backs go super high in the draft, but maybe a team opts to not draft them. They've got a new general manager in the fold. We'll have to see what his draft philosophy ends up being, but it could just be, hey, we need to upgrade at receiver Tadar. Roa McMillan is a big-bodied wide receiver, one type of receiver, 6'5", 212, that can move. He's good after the catch, and he can go up and get the football. He's a really good option for a team that just needs more weapons. Offensively, Brock Bowers had a tremendous rookie year, and then Tom Tesco got fired for drafting him. Obviously, that was not the whole reason, but they could use more weapons on offense for whoever that quarterback ends up being. And Pete Carroll, new general manager. Maybe there's a chance for a Russ reunion. Now, I know there was a weird ending there in Seattle with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, but maybe they reunite in Oakland or Las Vegas. I think the Raiders go with a bridge quarterback option and then maybe draft one down the board. I don't think it happens here at 6. You want to throw at names in there. Dylan Gabriel is not a first-round pick at all. Jalen Milroe, I'd be shocked, but he's got more potential to be, Will. Howard will not be, Riley Leonard. No shot, I would be super surprised about Kylo McCord, and stop saying Jackson Dart. If you only saw the bowl game, that's fine. He's not a good prospect. He's not going to go until probably day 3. He's not a first-round player. Stop, I see it in my comments a lot. Jackson Dart, I would put money on. It will not sniff the top 10 of the draft. I don't think he'll be remotely close. We'll have to see what happens. Jets at number 7. Maybe this is Will Johnson. They could use help on the boundary. You know, you've got some good options in the nickel. You're losing a couple DBS to free agency. Just continue the big-bodied boundary corner theme. And then you got Michael Carter, the second in the nickel, who's going to do a great job there. And then you're building a really, really good secondary. Yes, I think you need to upgrade that defensive line, but Mason Graham didn't make it here. You need to upgrade a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers unlikely to be back with the Jets, but there's just not an option here at number 7. So Will Johnson, I think, just makes the most sense there at that spot. Ball hawk at corner, really, really good size, great ability to make plays. And that's, I think, a lot of what you want at the quarterback position. Except, I don't think he's over-aggressive in the way that Emmanuel Forbes was. I think Will Johnson just is instinctive and knows when to take those calculated risks. At number 8 have the Carolina Panthers, going with the Georgia edge, and that is Michael Williams. I often have Jalen Walker as the pick here, who's more of like that hybrid off-ball SL pass rusher. Michael Williams is the 3-down edge rusher where he's not going to be doing anything else. Typically now maybe can or slide inside on obvious pass downs. He's, close to 270 pounds. We'll see what he happens to weigh in at the combine if he's going to be invited, which surely he is. And if he gets measured, but this is a guy who I think could be up near 270 pounds. That is explosive. And even though we played hurt in 2024, there were flashes, and we saw it against Texas. We saw it against a number of teams. Mike Williams has big-time potential, and I think the Panthers are a team that can take a chance on potential. They're not very good right now. They need to take somebody that can help out. That defense, it is a bad, bad group. One of the worst defenses in football. You know, the Panthers were constantly having to play from behind. And some of that was on the offense, but a lot of that was on the defense. They need more playmakers, offensively as well. Maybe you can get T. Higgins in free agency. Got to remember free agency happens well before the draft, so teams with needs often fill those through free agency and they build through the draft for the future. Williams is someone that has big-time upside. That can be a big-time edge rusher for you. And maybe you don't go Jalen Walker more in that Frankie Lau mold, as I've mentioned on this channel countless times. As we get to the Saints, this is my pick of the draft that some of these I make. And I'm like, I can see it. I can rationalize it. It makes some sense. That doesn't always mean it's 100% chance of happening, right? Or even 50, or even 20. Sometimes. I go, you know, what? Given the way the board has fallen, maybe this team does this. There's a chance, and what would that do for everything else? The Saints at number 9 here is the pick where that's going to happen for me. I'm going Ashton Genty. Why, I think he is clearly the best player on the board for the Saints. I love Malachi Starks. Alvin Traw is getting older. He is under contract for the next 2 seasons, but he's getting older. He's 30 years old, and the Saints historically have loved to run the football. I know that offense and that team personnel-wise is changing a lot,